I think Myron Gaines, despite this image of him being an alpha chad that he's trying to maintain on his mentally deficient podcast, is the epitome of an incel. Hear me out. It's an utter travesty of our reality that a generation of boys and men would listen to this train wreck of a human being for dating and life advice. Though he's held one girlfriend for a couple of days and probably slid his ding-a-ling into countless poor other women, all at the age of 36 by the way, he's still an incel in the mental sense. And I call him an incel because of certain factors to do with his childhood. What I seek to do in this video is to understand the events that have played out in the life of Myron Gaines that caused him to say the stupid thing he says online today. Because nobody is born with this type of hatred. It's something that they have to develop as they grow. So maybe you could learn something from this video, I really do not know. But either way, hope you enjoy.
Wrong. Men created the world that your fat ass lives in right now, that you can eat the surplus calories that you do every single day and not go to the gym that you should be attending. No.
Perhaps the most infamous aspect of the Fresh and Fit podcast is the vile and often straight up violent and misogynistic rhetoric that they push in each and every phrase that either of these two disgraces to their race utter.
Women can't lead anything. The only thing they can lead is to the end of the relationship.
Female vaginas are disgusting.
Men are better than women at almost everything. Women just suck at a majority of things compared to men. If we had to rely on female ingenuity, we'd still be in caves, bro.
The very pathos of the Fresh and Fit podcast is the live degradation of women on their podcast, who, judging from the fact that they are on average decently successful OF creators, are already in some kind of mental trance. Though I ain't trying to white knight because I feel that some of the blame should go to these opportunistic morons who have no respect for themselves. What the podcast is doing to them is literally kicking them while they're down. But the point I'm trying to make is that I think the strategy is to appeal to his audience of angry, disaffected, loser, virgin men isn't a tactic nor a content strategy. I think the content and rhetoric is the misogynistic shit it's always been, because Myron is actually one of these angry, disaffected, loser incel types himself, who, in an alternate universe, would be a consumer of the same type of content that he produces now. He'd be the type to buy a super chat just to insult one of those women, only to go on to sub to her OF when he gets lonely a few hours after dark. Now, I know, calling Myron an incel, it's a no-brainer, but hear me out. There's this clip of Myron that I watched from this video that I found interesting.
Cause when I was 18 years old, playing fucking Halo, figuring out my life, no bitch would have taken me. So now that I'm up, you're down, that shit, I'm gonna exercise the leverage.
From him talking like this, it's not too crazy to suppose that he most likely never had that high school romance, and it's something that probably still bugs him to this day. Most incels and women-hating men in general are formed when one particular woman in their lives does something they perceive as horrible, in most cases rejecting their advances. So instead of doing some self-reflection on why they're so needy and emotional over trying to get a girlfriend, they instead lash out, as typical to the social script for anyone born a male in Western societies. Or overall society in general, I really don't know. Myron's lack of a high school romance and a sense of entitlement to the time, attention, and bodies of women is something that a majority of his viewers can relate to. So just like these incels, to compensate for his historic lack of pussy, he LARPs as this alpha chat who supposedly bangs all the hottest women on the planet. Which, if you ask me, is kind of a sad thing because, keep in mind, this is a 36-year-old man we're talking about. This guy is literally twice my age, and yet he's still talking about a quote-unquote effing bitches all the time.
When women don't have a man guiding them, you guys do stupid.
And this isn't even going into the gay allegations, because his hatred of women is so extreme that I don't think it's so wrong to call him a homosexual. Hell, with the existence of this picture, I think the gay argument is a lot more plausible. But it's just kind of sad how that loser you knew from high school could turn into some LARPing manosphere quote-unquote entrepreneur who has to degrade women not as a way of satiating some latent sick sexual desire, but as a method of feeling better about himself for being the overweight Halo-playing loser that he was. But what's even more sad is another definitive trait that he's picked on in the past 1 to 2 years.
The black fatigue is real, bro. The nigga fatigue is real. People are tired of the fucking ridiculousness with the violence in the major cities. People getting attacked, people getting beaten, you know, getting jumped. It's like, what the fuck, man, at this point? Fuck it.
The Fresh and Fit podcast has been around destroying the lives of confused young men for 5 going to 6 years now with the dumbass misogynistic ideas that they spread. But another way that these two, Myron in particular, are destroying men is by making them racists.
What?
The Klan was right about a lot of shit. All the degenerate terms, the butchering of the English language, it comes from black people, bro.
I want to believe that this is something more specific to Myron himself, rather than a duo that run their stupid podcast, at least when it comes to racism against black men, but I don't have the time to extensively comb through hours and hours of content of LARPer alpha males that act like they got it all in life, so don't quote me on that. But again, like I pointed out in his hatred of women section, this hatred of black people has to start from somewhere, and what I'm going to do is lay out what I think happened to him. Myron Gaines, otherwise known as Amaro Fudel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is Sudanese American, and judging off of how accurately his black origins, if you would, could be traced back to the actual continent of Africa, he is most likely a first or second generation immigrant. Considering that he went to Northeastern University, whose acceptance rate is this at the approximate time he applied, he was probably a smart kid in high school. And by proxy, he probably didn't fit into, I guess, the hood black archetype in middle and high school. And maybe he showed his disdain of that culture at some point, meaning that he attracted the ire of black people. It's not an uncommon experience amongst black people who don't fit that cultural narrative of being into street culture and thug life to be bullied and to be an outcast from their own race. Hell, the idea for this argument came from this video that I watched like a couple of centuries ago. Now, this is a bit questionable if you ask me, since he grew up in Connecticut, but this is what I believe. Judging off of the bits and pieces of his experiences growing up that he's mentioned live, alongside the utter hatred that this guy spews out, Myron was probably much like this guy at some point in his adolescence, where he felt outcast by his own race and felt this bitterness towards all black people. I also want to believe that there's a degree of self-hatred that's behind this guy's honestly irrational hatred of all black people, because when you hate the race that you're a member of to the point of imitating Charlie Kirk, the chopped ignorant bigot that he was, and convening with actual white supremacists, I think that's saying something about your own perception of ethnicity. I'm pretty sure self-hatred is another issue with black people in general. Just because of how Western society has worked for the longest time, the average black person is, in a sense, told that they should hate themselves for the fact that they were born black. Now, I should say that this last point I made comes with a massive asterisk because the experience I just described is not one I can truly understand. The idea of being rejected by my own race or ethnicity, or any particular race in general, is just not something I can relate to. And there could be nuances to my point, since there's probably information that this guy has shared on the internet that I haven't considered, given how I'm not willing to comb through literal days and days worth of misogynistic slop. But from the little amount of content featuring Myron Gaines that I did comb through for research, I'm under the impression that Myron really has no sympathy for the people he deems as inferior.
For one of these guys that want to sit here and make excuses for why you're a fucking loser, get the fuck off this podcast. I don't give a shit.
And I think this attitude is very telling that probably no one in his childhood growing up had any sympathy for him when he was the one who was, I guess, downtrodden, when he was, that fat, overweight kid in senior year playing Halo all day. So now he's doing what he claims to be doing in this clip.
Now that I'm up, you're down. Fuck that shit. I'm gonna exercise the leverage.
While I'm at it, I think it's worth a mention that his racism isn't exclusively limited to black people. In all my research for this video, I've heard him say things about different kinds of people. It's crazy.
I'm sure food is terrible too. Like, who eats curry? Curry is disgusting. Like,
oh, little lamb Rogan Josh? I don't know. I can't vibe with you on that.
Everything about India sucks. Their food sucks. Their women are ugly. Like, you guys are a failed country altogether.
I'm scared my channel is gonna get banned just because of this one clip, but like still.
And black women, here's another thing, dirty little secret about black women. They don't like intelligence. They don't like competence. They don't like proper English. They don't like educated, none of that shit. You corny. You ain't got no swag.
Combine the two societal ills of racism and sexism, and you arrive at the third piece of the hatred of Myron Gaines. Black women, or more accurately, misogynoir, or misogynoir, I don't know how to pronounce this, dude.
Where do you rank black women in terms of attractiveness?
All the way at the bottom?
Very bottom.
He, along with his partner that cannot speak the English language, has a particular hatred of black women, to the point of using terms like Shaniqua, Lakeisha, and other, I guess, black-sounding names to grossly overgeneralize all black women. Or, as Malcolm X so finely put it a couple of centuries ago, the most unprotected group in the United States.
What do you say about the chat saying that you can't pull a black woman?
I would say, why would I? They could have them, man. I'm not competing for LaQuisha. You guys can have them, man.
Now, I think a part of it comes down to reaching for low-hanging fruit, as the plurality of these incel manosphere types that form the majority of his viewer base tend to be either bigoted male menaces or self-hating ethnic men who also double as racists. But if you ask me, I think a part of it also kind of ties back to that Black Cell video I referenced and the point I made about Myron Gaines along with it. I want to believe that in his high school experience, you know, being that loser kid playing Halo or whatever, he was rejected by specifically black women. Amongst the women he was like rejected by and like the women he claims didn't really mess with him like that, maybe a plurality of them were specifically black women. The thing with the war of the sexes, when it comes to black people in general, is that from what I've watched at least, it seems more embittered. As I want to assume that both sides feel wronged by the other because of how institutionalized racism makes their situation a lot more complex. Hell, with the female chauvinist Otokotachi o Zenin Korose, a type of channels I know of, aside from one, they tend to be run by either black or African women. The Amani Forrester person I covered a couple of centuries ago. Quick plug, go watch that video. This Bourbon Bucci, I don't know how to pronounce that shit, person. This Lysandra person, I could go on. But I think this goes without saying. Black women are regular human beings. No matter how many manosphere idiots want to say otherwise, this will always remain a fact. And anybody who disagrees with it is just mentally deficient, mentally lacking. And I think it ties back to the point I made on Myron's relationship with members of his own race. Myron was probably most likely considered a loser by the black people in whatever middle or high school he went to, but this was probably especially so with black women.
What's a good man do? Can you describe a good man so we can tell the audience what a good man is?
Yeah, I would say most women don't deserve a good man.
What is a good man?
Do you know what a good man is?
Why can't you answer that question?
No, I just want to know if you know.
This is your poster.
No, I'm asking you if you know.
I'm asking you. That's what we're trying to figure
I'm asking
out.
you if you know, so
that's the questionnaire.
I believe that all black and African people all over the world take a mighty L for the very existence of this loser. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that because of his history growing up as what people would be inclined to define as a loser, who was both attention and touch-starved for a good portion of his life, Myron Gaines bottled up all his shit for at least a decade as he grew up, and is only now engaging in the hateful, misogynistic, emotional outlash that is also familiar to, I guess, male culture.
You motherfuckers weren't there when this bitch lied and said that I got her pregnant when I fucking did it. And then you dumbasses, 3 years later, believe some bitch that makes the same fucking allegations again. You fucking idiots!
And now all of society, in particular the women, have to suffer the reverberating effects of his, along with that of other certain manosphere idiots who truly believe in the shit that they're saying, emotional outlashings. Unlike someone like Charlie Kirk, who was indoctrinated into believing the shit that he believed out of a sense of entitlement from a young age, Myron's shitty opinions on the world and society in general are something that he developed because of his lived experiences of being the social outcast and being made fun of when he was a boy. Actually, scratch that last point, he still is a boy. But with this conclusion, there's an important point that I want to raise. There is no saving this guy. I know that most of this video is kind of framed in a way where the points I'm raising come from a place of sympathy, but when you're a 36-year-old man with no family, no actual career demanding of respect, and no status that isn't tied to your money, made by telling hordes of surplus, undesirable incel men that fat people should be put in concentration camps, and that women are good for nothing outside of making sandwiches and having intercourse, then I think the cost of what it would take to get you on the path of redemption is more than what it's worth. But hey man, that's just me. Yo, what is good people? Just like that, you've made it to the end of another Nyatsis video. I really do appreciate you for watching this kind of, I guess, analysis video on one of the more toxic figures on the internet. I actually have another video like this in the works, this time on one of the more female chauvinist, all men must die types, and yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna release that, but hopefully soon. But yeah, same old YouTuber shit. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. I promise I'll try to upload more this year. Like, and I guess relish in the war that I might start in the comments section, because I've clearly done that before. And yeah, I'm out of here. Deuces.